Hello, welcome to another edition, an extra special edition of Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. Yeah, I know I say they're all special, and they are each in their own way. My guest today is just a super interesting dude. He is a fractional COO. We're going to talk a little bit about understanding what that means, but he is a coach, and he's an operations executive and a business builder. We're going to learn a lot about him. Michael J. Rosa, who's been an entrepreneur since he was a little kid, wrote a chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 21, which is not out yet as of the time we're recording this, but it should be out very soon. And I'm really looking forward to reading his chapter and also to chatting with Michael and learning more about it, because it's called Raise Your Hand, which some of you may already know I have a problem with. My wife says I have helium arm. My hand is always coming up, but you definitely, I'm definitely interested in Raise Your Hand, Leading Before You're Ready, which is the chapter by Michael J. Rosa. And here he is. Good morning, Michael. How are you today?
John, I'm well. What a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the appearance. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad we got this. Glad we got this scheduled, and it's interesting that we got this scheduled before your book is actually out, so we can actually start doing some promotion ahead of time for Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 21.
I might have to have some spoiler alerts, John.
Well, you know what? That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah,
We want to give
yeah.
people a little bit of insight to what you wrote about and who you are. Now, I have to tell you, in our pre-chat before we actually went live on this thing, you mentioned the fact that you've been an entrepreneur since you were a kid, and so what what did you do? I have to ask, because I mowed lawns for people, and when I was really little, I used to, well, not really little, but when I was growing up in Brooklyn, my friends and I used to sing Beatles songs on the corner for a nickel, that kind of stuff. But let's find out about your entrepreneurial spirit here.
Well, you were doing what Frank Stallone was doing in the Rocky movie, right? You're out there singing on the corner for bucks. So, the reason I say I started so small is because my grandfather. So these are some spoiler alerts, but I won't say that anymore. My grandfather came to this country at the turn of the century, 1900s, and he was my first example of an entrepreneur. And he came to this country with hope, and he was going to build a life for himself, and then his family would come over and live the American dream. So when I was a small child, 5, 6 years old, I used to spend time in his convenience store that he built. And it was a local store. It was really cool. It's like, a 7-Eleven today is, but it was really geared for the local people. And so he'd have me stocking shelves I'm 5 or 6 years old, so what do I know, right? And I always joke that
So where was this?
That was in Fall River, Massachusetts. How about that? Can you tell my
just curious,
Massachusetts accent?
And where did your grandfather come over from?
He came over from Lebanon. He came from Beirut, Lebanon. So and that was he was a young man. When he came here, he was about 20 years old. In about 1910, believe it or not. So it seems like centuries ago, yes, but it's like
I know
I have to dig deep to find those years. So I would do all kinds of small stuff around the shop, and I did it for all the penny candy I could earn, for all the quarters I could put in the pinball machine, and just to be around my grandfather. He was just an amazing man, I call him an excellent man. He was just a pillar of the community and just an excellent person. And so I started with him, and then I got to be where every weekend, every vacation, school vacation, all I wanted to do was go work in my grandfather's store. So we had a great relationship that way. And then as soon as I got a little older, then I started to do things, I'll call them freelance, like you. I would cut grass, shovel snow. I had to shovel snow in Massachusetts, and
yeah,
help paint fences. I would sell those, and I would really try and Don't tell anybody, but I sold fireworks too. I wasn't supposed to do that, but I did. Made a few bucks at
I
that.
think we all did that at some point too. Yeah, I did it too.
Yeah. And then I
In New
was
Jersey,
in
where
New Jersey.
fireworks
Yeah,
were
see,
illegal.
same thing in Massachusetts, man. So I would sell those and make a little profit. I always knew, I learned about profit and loss from my grandfather, and I learned a very important, lesson that everybody knows at this point. It's not what you earn, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And that's a lot to do with profit and loss and P&Ls today and for centuries. How much you bring in is not really what's important, it's really what you keep. So it's revenue feeds the ego and profit feeds the family. So I learned that at a very early age. So then I became I love cars. I'm a car guy, and as soon as I could, I started fixing up cars, cleaning them up, and selling them. So I conned my father into buying an old jalopy, and I turned it around and I made a couple hundred bucks on it. I was 15 years old. I thought that was the best. So that's why then I started, so then I started buying and flipping cars 15, 16, 17 when I was a little kid store.
I love it. I love it. I love that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just in me. It's in me. But I think I was born with it. And then my grandfather helped foster that.
That's really fantastic. And so now I understand a little bit about, kind of how you wound up doing what you're doing now. Let's talk a little bit about, kind of let's fast forward to 2026. Who is Michael J. Rosa? What are you doing now?
Well, I'm working I've opened my own shop, if you will. I'm MJR Business Advisors. And what I do is I work with small to medium sized companies these days. We work with, it's really about growth, profitability, and strategies for development. So I enjoy working with business startups because business startups to me are very interesting. I've done quite a few myself and done them for others. And I have something I say. It's like, oh, you want to open up a business, because a lot of people want to open up a business. They want to start a business, but they really don't know. Number one, what it's going to take. Number two, how to do it. And number three, they really don't have a path to do so unless they have some kind of guidance. So I love doing startups. And then ultimately, the reason I love doing startups is because you're helping somebody achieve their dream. So whatever it is,
Yeah.
it could be a soap store, it could be a restaurant. Like I've owned many restaurants. It could be a restaurant. It could be a car lot. It could be a construction company. It doesn't matter. It's their dream. So if I can be a part of
Yeah.
that in many different ways, I'm happy to be. I'm happy to help them. So work with them.
I love that. That is so rewarding. It's so rewarding, isn't it, to actually help somebody achieve something?
Yeah.
I think those of us who wind up in the coaching field and things like that, that's really ingrained in us, that mindset, that mission to help others achieve their goal. It is I find it really, that's why I do what I do, and it's the same thing. And I always say that is my real reward out of what I do. I mean, just I would do it for free, except for the fact that I have become accustomed to those minor luxuries of food and shelter. So we need to going back to, right, the profit feeds the family kind of thing. We still need that part of it.
Right.
But yeah, that's where you get, I think, the most out of life, is when we're helping others. So this is great. Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry. I wanted
No,
to interject
I'm
there.
happy. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear what you have to say. Um, I did plenty. And truth be told, John, I did plenty just for free. But some of those people that I helped start up, they're still in business today, and they'll still be in contact with me, and I'll
Right.
call, and it gives me some really personal satisfaction. Just makes me feel good. Didn't put a dime in my pocket. I used to joke that it's going to cost them a cup of coffee and a scone at Panera Bread. That's what it cost them. I would meet with them every week, and we'd sit down and go over their stuff. They'd buy me a coffee, and we'd chat. And so those people are still in business today. That really means a lot to me, and that's my, I don't have the $1 million legacies of all these major people that we know of in the business world. But my legacy will be, I hope it is anyways, that people will look back and say, well, that guy, Michael, he was a great guy. He helped me out. He gave me some insights to business,
Bingo.
and he helped me live my dream, right? And John, as I think about it now, as I'm speaking with you, I think furthermore, the reason I think I do what I do is because I was blessed with a few mentors in my life, and the mentorships that I received, I didn't pay for them. Okay, I was able to attract those people, and then so one of the things I say in the book is that you must believe in yourself, and then others will follow. When you believe in yourself,
Yes.
people see that, right? And when they see that, they latch onto that. And then when they latch onto that, that's when they may become your mentor, they may be your guide. So that's what I think that's the other part of doing the startups and working with small businesses is that I'll be so bold as to say, I like to be a mentor to these people as well, because again, that's part of the legacy piece for me to make me feel good,
I love it. And legacy, so many times people think of their legacy as their stuff, and the amount of money and stuff that they've amassed instead of being what you'll be remembered for. And it's interesting that this comes up because that's actually what I wrote about in the first time I was in a chapter in Cracking the Rich Code. It was about our legacy not being our stuff, but being what we'll be remembered for. And what we'll be remembered for is how we treated people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's our
and so
I was just going to say it's our.
I was just going to say doing what you do, helping these people get started, build their dream, live their dream, and then still seeing them living that dream years later.
It makes me feel good. And then when I look back at my mentors, I know who they are, and I remember who they are. I remember what they did with me and for me, and so that's just kind of like me, paying it forward, right? So that's a good, that's really part of the journey that I'm on, is to do that. And last thing about the legacy, I know, there's a lot of people, as you mentioned, they'll put a price tag on all of that, and really, it's about having great character. For me, it's about great character, being reliable, dependable, honoring my word, because that's all you have, right? At the end of the day, it's your word.
Right.
And that can't be tarnished. That has to be gold. So everything else you can work around, but you can't retrieve your reputation and your character with all the money in the world, right? So that means a lot to me as well.
Oh, exactly. I like how at the core of it all, right? Just be a good person. That's what really makes all the difference right there. Right there.
Yeah. And
I love it.
The coaching thing gets a little interesting because when I started coaching, I think I've been practicing for what I've been doing my entire life, John. So I started working when I was 15 years old, and I haven't stopped yet. And I won't tell you how old I am, but I'm old enough to know. I spent so many years, decades in business, and so what I've been able to do and what I've been blessed to be given is that I have these transferable agnostic skills. So my pillars of expertise, if you will, have been in retail, restaurant, real estate, and transportation logistics. So, but all of those industries, once there are some fundamentals of business that I don't care what kind of store you have, I don't care what business you have. You could be a dentist, you could be a manufacturer, anybody. There are always the fundamentals of the operations, the financials, and the culture of the business, right? There's always those involved. So you can take the agnostic skills, the transferable skills, you can bring those across every one of those silos, and you'll understand. So as in the fraction, we mentioned the fractional thing. So if I'm going into a particular company, again, it doesn't really matter to me, the company. Give me their balance sheet, give me their give me that P&L, give me that cash flow analysis, give me an hour, and I'll tell you what's happening. So that's where those transferable skills come in, right? So
I think so many people don't realize the transferable skills that they have, and they pigeonhole themselves into a certain industry or a certain type of work because they think that's the only way that they can apply it.
right,
And you having this broader perspective and looking at the skills that you have and how they can apply in different places. I mean, I was a communication guy, right? And so I found that communication can be applied in a lot of different industries.
yeah,
No kidding, right? Who thought of it? But and I learned that actually when I was in the military. So at different stages in my career in the military and working in government service, I wound up representing completely different things. Everything from a Navy ship, which was an ammunition supply ship,
wow,
very different perspective than your frontline warships, and then went to Naval Investigative Service, where I was doing law enforcement and security, and then went to Military Sealift Command, where I was doing international
wow.
shipping. Like, but it's the same skill set, just applied in a different way to the different industry. And I think if people look at the skills, like your skills you're talking about, and understanding, the business mechanics and all of that, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, I can apply this here, and I can apply the same skill here. It just has different components to it, but it's still the same skill set. That is so powerful for people to take a look at their own selves, their own skills, and see how they can apply them elsewhere. It's brilliant.
Right. And well, first of all, thank you for your service. And second of all, sounds like an illustrious career and very interesting. I mean, wow, such an interesting career that you have in the military, doing all those things and being exposed to all that information and knowledge, and also just I mean, whether you believe it or not, the excellence of what we do in the military, right? So most people have to live that life of excellence. And so I appreciate that, admire that. So I wanted to say about the coaching piece of it all. Coaching
Yeah.
is it takes humility, right? So when I was thinking about being a coach, and I said, well, I better get coached by a coach, and you're either coachable or you're not, right? So Tom Brady, okay, Tom Brady has a coach. All the top players in the world, they have coaches, and so I had to step back and say, well, if those guys have a coach, then I should have a coach too, right? I've have 3 decades in martial arts. I always had a teacher. I always had a sensei who was my coach, and then I became a sensei and coach, if you will. So, we always have someone that has been there, has seen what we want to see. They know what we want to know, and it's a much better way to get to our next steps where we need to go if we have someone whose guidance has been along that way. One of my favorite things to say is like, I've seen the movie, I know how it ends. Don't want to go to that one. Go follow me. Let's go to this movie. I know where to go, and I know where the corners are, and
Yes.
I know what's going to happen around that corner. So let's go. And so that's why I think the coaching journey provides that, because I can give someone, say there's a person who wants to open up a restaurant. Okay, I ran multiple restaurants. I opened up my own restaurants. So I can work with them and say, yes, I believe that's a great idea. Or no, how about maybe taking in this perspective of it? Or, that location, no matter how beautiful it looks, it's not going to work. And I need to be crystal clear on that. I need to tell them why. But the proof will be they
Right.
see when they go through everything that they need to go through, the data they need to look at the diligence they need, they'll find out, wow, that was right. I'm glad I didn't do that. So coaching does take humility, and we have to be able to step back from ourselves, have someone help us that's been there before, and that goes back to mentorship, really.
Yeah. That is fantastic. And your because of your experience across a broad spectrum of careers and types of businesses. Well, you can bring that in, and you can get in there and say, "Look, I've been there, done that. Sold the T-shirts."
That's right. That's right.
I love it. I love it. Now, you wrote in your book, and I love the title of your chapter, "Raise Your Hand, Leading Before You're Ready." Um, and I already can see where this is going. So why don't you give us just a little bit of insight about what you wrote and why you chose that topic for Cracking the Rich Code?
Well, I think that it could be a rich code, it could be a wealth code. There's people that are born with wealth and they don't have to crack any code except just have to follow their ancestors, right? And me, on the other hand, every penny I've ever earned, I earned myself. And so what that really meant to me was that along the way, whether it was working with my grandfather or working in the first retail company I ever did, and then going into the restaurant business and so forth, there were times that I felt that I felt I might not be ready. And there were positions that were presented to me, situations that were presented to me, that if I was just sitting in a room by myself thinking, I'm like, well, I don't know if I can do this, But again, if you believe in yourself, others will follow, right? So I tell a story in the book of the first time that I really had a major, major challenge, and it was my first mentor, and it was a company that I started as a stock boy at, and later became a principal. And he said, "You're moving to Maine." I'm like, "What?" I was living in Massachusetts. I was I was a 20-year-old kid. I'd never been out of Massachusetts, basically. And he said, "You're moving to Maine." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, we're going to open up a retail store up there, and I want you to do it." And I was like, I don't know what to do. I never opened up a store before. I don't know. And I said, his name was Ira. And I said, Ira, I don't, why me? He says, because I believe in you and you can do it. Said, okay. So I learned how to take a slab of cement with some steel girders on the side and transform it into a men's retail clothing store, to grand opening to.
Oh wow, men's retail
clothing, yeah. So I started my.
I was in that field myself
really?
briefly years ago, back in the late 70s. I used to sell men's clothes.
Well, me too.
Yes.
That's what. Well, I started at 15 years old as a stock boy flipping Levi jeans, and that was the company I later became the principal of. And then we ran that company for a number of years. But that was in the same time, John. I was in the late 70s. And all through the 80s, we sold that company in 1991. So, but that's where I got it. That was my first. He believed in me, and I said, okay. And then as time went on, he would ask me to do certain things. We'd have to grow. We'd have to do other things. And, I kept raising my hand. I can do that. I'll do that. And then and that was, I think for me, as I interpreted the book and Cracking the Rich Code, that was my interpretation. If I had said, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm afraid to do that, I'm going to fail, right? Right. It's way overused, but they say that you learn from your failure is the way you hone your sword. It's the way you hone that steel, right?
Right.
That mentor I always say to me, he says, it's okay to make mistakes, just make small ones. So I would try and make small mistakes, but some of them.
My favorite one is. My favorite one is that.
Tell me.
It's from Esther Dyson. She says, "Always make new mistakes."
Well, that's good, right? Because if you don't push the envelope, if you don't push the border. Okay, if you don't try and break through, you'll never break through, right? It's like the story about 3 feet from gold, right? If you don't keep going, if you don't forge that hole and you give up, then someone's going to come in right behind you. It might not be someone, it might be something. It's going to come right in behind you and finish the work you started and maybe succeed. So, having enough of your personal grit to get through that is really important.
Yep.
And you have to, no matter what, I think part of the if cracking the rich code, if you will, is belief in yourself, and believing that if you set your mind to something, if you have good intention, you have diligence, you have determination, you have discipline. Discipline is one of my favorite words. Then you can achieve. Doesn't matter how big or small, but you can achieve. And that's really, and the word rich is not always about money. Okay,
No. Yeah. Perfect.
my grandfather my grandfather was a rich man. He wasn't wealthy, but he was rich, right? Well
Right.
read, gentleman, honor his word, do great things for people. I remember I'm going to tell this quick story because it makes me feel good. During the Depression, he ran his store. I wasn't around back then, but I heard stories about him giving people food and just cleaning out the shelves and writing these little IOUs on a piece of paper. He never
Yeah.
expected to collect on. He never expected to collect on those. He just said,
Right.
"I'm going to support. I'm going to support the community that supported me, and I'm going to give back." And then
I love it.
once the dust settled on the not the pandemic, depression, it came back to him. Right, it came back. So it's really that's about rich is about a person, the belief in themselves, and the belief that they can do what they set forth to do, and that can bring them wealth, right? In many ways.
I love it, Michael. I wish we had more time. We are just about out of time. I warned you ahead of time. I said this thing goes really really fast.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh,
This is incredible. I've so enjoyed this. This is fantastic.
I know it feels like we're just getting. Oh, I've loved this conversation, and definitely want to dig in more. And so I've reached out to connect with you on LinkedIn, and I think other people should do so as well. Check out Michael-J-Rosa on LinkedIn. Also, visit Michael's website, which is mjradvisors.com, mjr hyphen advisors.com, and learn more about Michael. And when volume 21 comes out, Cracking the Rich Code, grab a copy of that and read his chapter, Raise Your Hand Leading Before You're Ready. I can't wait for that chapter to come out because just a little bit of insight that you've provided us today, it's really it's got me interested. I can't wait to dig in, especially since I'm one of the people that I'm raising my hand all the time and I do a lot of stuff before I'm ready. And it's nice to know that I'm not the only one who does that.
You're in
My wife
good
laughs at me all the time.
you're in good company, John. You're in good company. There's a lot of people like you.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So fellow people with helium arms is really what we've got. That's what we
That's
call it.
great.
Helium arms. The
That's
arms always. I can do that. I can help with that. Sure, no problem. I'm sure. What do you need?
sign me up.
I know. I love it. I love it. But I'm so glad that Jim Britt reached out to you and that you uh, did that, raised your hand, and said sure. I've never written before,
That's
but I'll
true.
do this.
Yeah.
And this is what happens, right? This is what
That's right.
happens, and you never know where you wind up.
That's right.
So, Michael, this has been a great conversation. I'll remind people visit mjradvisors.com and check out Michael's chapter in volume 21 of Cracking the Rich Code. And probably the most important thing is don't let this go away. Reach out and connect with Michael on LinkedIn at Michael J. Rosa. Michael, thank you so much for the time. Is there anything you've got? 30 seconds. Is there anything you want to leave people with thought?
I would first of all like to thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we can go. I think we can chat all day. We could be fast friends for sure. And it's just like
Absolutely.
the thing I'll leave you with is believe in yourself, and others will follow. So I wish you all well, and thanks for tuning in. And reach out like John said. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Michael. Have a great day. And folks, go and play this back a few times. Get all those golden nuggets that are buried in there. And we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.